Hola community, welcome to BlenderToday Live. Welcome to 2026 also. It's been 6 days from 2026. This year, it's a big one for Blender because 5.0 just wrapped up a few, months ago. In 2 months, we have already Blender 5.1. Actually, today we were talking with the team about what does it entail, right? In 1 month, in February 4th, there will be the beta of 5.1, which also comes with a new splash, which I'm already trying to get someone from the studio, maybe that is making a short film that maybe is about to be released not too long from around the release of 5.1. So that it's super nice to be here at the studio again, and I was hoping that Live would be here today to talk about the projects for Blender during 2026. I think it will be largely influenced by something that came out the last time that we chat, right on in the middle of the live stream. I don't know if you remember the survey of Blender during 2025 came out. So that was pretty interesting. There are some changes compared to the one from 2024, but overall the sentiment is very similar. It's about the same. The requests regarding features is about the same, so that it sends a very clear message, and hopefully there will be more announcements around that for this year. But I think it's pretty clear. We all know what should be done in Blender, what is really lagging behind, and we also know that AI is not one of those things, which is super nice to see, and to see the sentiment from the community regarding that. So let's see. If it's the first time that you're here, by the way, this is a live stream that we do from the Blender HQ that takes place every 2 weeks or so, and we go through everything that is new in Blender development, but like literally reading at every commit, every change at the source code in Blender. Not all of the commits are going to be read, of course, because there's hundreds. Actually, this week there's not that many changes. I gotta be honest. Today, if you're hoping for new features, there's not that many. It was the holidays, and there's also the Winter of Quality project, which makes the team focus more on the bug fixing or closing all tasks or writing documentation, things that maybe not be super sexy in terms of new features, but it's still very important. So let's see what else is new. So the survey is out. The blender.org homepage has a few people over here because there is new management. Actually, it doesn't seem like it, but there is a new CEO of Blender. There's a new president, chairman in running Blender, but not here actually at the moment. It's in Vegas, and it's not playing with all the donations. It's actually begging for money because that's where CES takes place at the moment. CES, the consumer entertainment thing, CES. You know, where all the technology big companies are, and where it's the place to be to have meetings with companies that are pouring in the wrong places. We have to, yes, someone needs to go there and tell them, hey, just stop wasting money on AI, spending on actual software, people writing the software and actual people using it. No slop. So that's what Francesco is doing at the moment. Is flying at this time. There has been crazy weather in the Netherlands, so it got delayed. Hopefully that's not going to get on the way of meetings that he has to take there. And also I think he's going to be in LA and in all that area, San Francisco, and just trying to keep the connection, which is very important actually. If you think of the role of a CEO, of a president of a company, Ton used to do that a lot over email, but wasn't so keen on traveling that much, especially the later years. Like the beginning, yes, but towards the later years, it was mostly focusing on maybe traveling like once to go to SIGGRAPH and then maybe NSE, but smaller conferences. Whereas Francesco, being many years younger, is probably let's hope he doesn't get too burnt out too soon. But it goes into conferences and talks to people, because a lot of this is relationships, right? And especially for a donation-based project like Blender, there needs to be, go there and, hey, do you want to contribute to the good of the world? You want to be the good guys, contribute to open source. So anyway, that started, but just to mention, and we close this topic, not really is going to change. Not much is going to change, because this team, the 4 people that you see here, has been running Blender already for last year pretty much, and everything is going well, so nothing to worry about. But yeah, big change. All right, what else? The project that I was mentioning before, Singularity, is also going strong, and there are already some renders that are getting close to final, and they actually have some part of some shots that are final, maybe color gradings left, but yeah, interesting to see where that goes. The thread for today's episode, I made it already. You can see the notes that there are not that many. There's like 100 or so changes, of which I'm only gonna mention like 18 or less than 20. So without further ado, let's see what else. Oh, what else is new? Blender Heads. But if you're watching this live stream, you probably have seen already the episode of Blender Heads, which is super cool, because they go and it's called the end of an era, which is a bit clickbaity, but with a good reason, because the era of the old servers has ended, and now some of that is happening on the cloud, some of that is happening on in here in place. We have some computers building the versions of Blender that you use every day, and yeah, that happens over here. The studio actually today this looks like this, but just full of snow. It's crazy. Anyway, go have a look if you haven't already. I'm gonna drop the comment over here, and let's see what else is new in Blender today. So the end of an era, message from the Blender Foundation board. What else? So the ones that I'm gonna mention, I highlighted with a little diamond, as I usually do. But maybe worth mentioning this one. Actually, in the chat they're talking about assets already. So one thing about assets, it's a bug fix actually, and it was possible, even though you shouldn't do it, it was possible to edit catalogs in Essentials assets library. So Blender comes with built-in assets as part of the Essentials asset library. You probably have seen it already. It's in the asset browser. It's the one that you can use already, that you get access to by default. This one, you could edit the catalogs, but Blender, when you save Blender or when you run it again, when you open it, it would reset, and that's not great. So that will be no longer possible. So yeah, the Essentials library that I'm showing here, this one, you could edit somehow the catalogs, and you shouldn't be doing that, because otherwise you lose the I mean, many of these assets have the catalogs which match the menus are which are they going to be shown, so you don't want to do that. That's why you need to make your own asset libraries, and soon online asset libraries. We had a meeting about that this morning with Sivren, who is in the chat. Thanks, Sivren, for remoderating the chat. So it's a bunch of cleanups. That's the usual cleanups, but also maybe a few more because of the nature of the quality project. Winter of quality, we call it, even though half of the planet is not in winter, but most of the developers are in this part, the upper hemisphere. There's no up in space, but the northern, widely agreed hemisphere. Okay, this one, C4 Compositor, we do have one change here, optimize nodes that use interpolation. So there are a few nodes, the built-in nodes in the compositor, such as glare, directional blur, lens distortion, anti-alias, blur, and vector blur, which are now going to be between 1.2 and 2 times faster, thanks to this change and optimization by Omar. So very welcome, super nice. Then there are changes in the core, just sanity checks. You want your Blender core to be sane. Cycles changes, but not in code, but in heap RT. Actually, there's another change related to that mentioned later. Some DNA changes inside the Blender, a bunch of bug fixes. I don't usually go through bug fixes, but since we don't have that many changes, some of them are good to mention. Like some of them are actually in 5.0 and they didn't get fixed for 5.1, so they're still there, and you're probably gonna see it fixed only in 5.1 when 5.1 comes out. So for example, the snap line in the video sequence editor. So when you add a when you're editing something, for example, you have already one strip and then you add something and then you have this snapping line, right? It tells you, hey, I'm snapping to this part of the to this strip, to this marker, to anyway, there was a bug that made it so it would not show up, and this has been fixed also for drag and drop and for snapping in general when transforming. So that has been fixed. If you didn't see that before, you can update the nightlies. Then another one related to animation, the action slot display. There was a bug where you know how in Blender when the name doesn't fit, usually the item or the content up here, the data block ID selector, would usually grow with the content as much as possible, right? So to accommodate for make it readable as long as there's space. But that wasn't the case with the data block. The action slot name display was truncated too early, and you couldn't see how was it actually. And that has been fixed. It was just not accounting for the new icons that were introduced in Blender 5. Then there were some changes to the image strip cache, or strip cache in general in the sequencer, that once you drag and drop an image, it wouldn't reset the cache. Now it does. There was just a off by one fix done there. Another thing that I thought in Grease Pencil and compositing, I thought it was my fault. I thought I was doing something wrong, and I should have actually asked the developers and maybe report it as a bug, because it was a bug. The passes for Grease Pencil, they were not showing up in the compositor. That was I don't know, in the live compositor. Not any compositor actually, and that had to do with some renaming of the actual passes. So yeah, I thought it was on my side, or maybe it's not supported yet, but no, that was just a bug that has been fixed yesterday. So it's good to see it fixed. So if you rely on Grease Pencil passes in the compositor, then you should update. It's a high priority. It has been fixed. So there's no plans for a 5.0.2, like a new release on top of 5.0.1. But even if there was, this would not be part of it, because it might be too risky or maybe not worth going through the trouble of introducing new bugs, because 5.0.1 reintroduced some bugs that were not present in 5.0. And like the bug fix release, there were a couple things that just got in the way, and it was annoying to say the least. So if there is a 5.0.2, which there are no plans to, it's better to just update those regressions and not introduce potential new bugs. All right. But you only need to wait for what? Oh, actually, you don't even need to wait, right? You can just go to builder.blender.org and you download the latest and greatest 5.1 alpha, which is at your own risk because it can introduce new bugs. But 5.1 is super minimal in terms of big changes. Actually, 5.0 was, well, actually no, there is a library update, but there are so many more bug fixes because it's a part of the quality project, then maybe worth a try. Always back up your files, or maybe give it a try to see if it fixes any issues you may have. like the one I had with the grease pencil compositor. And another one, small one, but is related to some work that I did. The transparency in the nodes was not, yeah, it was possible in 4.5 when they were even not mute. So if you just lower the backdrop opacity of a node to see through, which I don't know why you would do that. Maybe you need to see through at all times. So to me, it just adds so much noise that when I fixed something in 5.0 for the header colors to use the full color, so that way you could I don't know if you remember, but in 4.5 you would pick a color and that color would not match the one in the actual node header, and that has been fixed in 5.0. So now you actually, what you see is what you get, and I missed the transparency part of it when unmuted, and that has been fixed now, so you will see transparency. Basically that's it. You can make transparent nodes if you want to. I don't know what you would, but you can. All right, let's see. That is all for the bug fixes. I think that's all that I wanted to mention. There is a bunch of bug fixes, hundreds of bug fixes, but is it really hundreds? This is 38 only, but I think there are more. Hundreds of changes. GPU module also seen some new changes, all inside, like part of the API. Git has yeah, that's something that usually you don't see. So Git is this platform that we use for like as a forge, it's called, to manage the code and the pull requests, the patches and the issues, the bug reports and so on. And there is now a little file that developers can use to automatically assign some PRs to the reviewers of that area, which is super nice, because that way whenever there is a new PR, you have to less guessing. You automatically, it's gonna be set to review by specific people, which is nice. Overall affects development in a good way. And if you're a developer and you're looking into this, actually the developers should feel free to add themselves to the file if you have access, if you're a core developer, right? Okay, next. Grease pencil. Okay, this one is the first big feature of today's episode, because, well, it's not a feature, it's a performance improvement, but a big one. So this change by Angus Stanton makes it so draw cache extraction multi-threaded. So this adds multi-threading when filling the VBOs in Grease Pencil Draw cache extraction. And there is a file example with the FPS set to 240. Locally, it would go from 48 frames per second to 60 frames per second. That's a lot. I wonder if the 60 frames per second is maybe just because of refresh rate or so, because it's very suspicious when something gets stuck at 60 frames per second, right? Especially when it was 48. But anyway, good to see it. Super nice. The next change, well, this is a performance improvement. So the next one, it's in macOS. There is now support for iCloud drives. So if you're on macOS, you open Blender, you open the file browser, you will see now that there is under volumes, there is now a entry called iCloud Drive, and in there you will see all your you can save and open files from iCloud directly from the file browser in Blender. Super nice. And that will open on your wow, that is the first step to maybe be able to open and transfer files from your Mac to an iPad or iPhone running Blender. Interesting. When it happens eventually. Next is in modeling, and this is more performance improvement. So The Polyfill 2D is an algorithm or library, I would say, but it's built in Blender and it's based on another library. I was doing some research today on what is this Polyfill 2D. So basically, it's every time you press F, when you select in edit mode, you select a bunch of faces, you press F, or there's some modifiers that I think you use it also. But basically, when it tries to build a face from a bunch of vertices, that algorithm is now much faster. So building, for example, this is Campbell is from Australia, and he tested with a shape of a 80,000 points outline of mainland Australia. So he basically get Australia map in 80,000 points. That, like filling that, was 5 times faster compared to Blender 5.0. So very nice, really welcome. So it's a bottleneck reported in it's a bug report from 2 weeks ago, and nice. You see, sometimes this is a crash, and this crash report somehow triggered other benchmarks, which led Campbell, the original author of this algorithm, this library, to look into it and perform actually not just this one, but many other performance improvements. The others, I think they're less, maybe less of an impact. There is no numbers, at least, regarding the performance improvement, but it's always good to see the optimizations done in that area, because it's one of those things that it ripples over everywhere in Blender, because it's that probably reused for many other things than just pressing F, but modifiers or other things. Oh, Silver mentions another similar case. We had a bug report about pose mode being slow when the mesh has millions of polygons. It was a 3D printable real scale model of a dinosaur. Okay, pose mode being slow when the mesh had millions of polygons. Has that led to any improvements in performance? Okay, next. In Paint. Well, Paint is very broad. Paint sometimes also covers Sculpt, Vertex Paint, Texture Paint, Weight Paint as well. In this case, one change by Sean Kim made it so the color sample operators are now combined. What does it mean? So I didn't know this, I just learned it today, that prior to this commit, there were 2 separate operators for sampling color information across paint modes. One for sculpting, which worked on color attributes using the Paint VVH active element information, so based on just the one color attributes in that mode. And there was another one for Grease Pencil and Texture Paint, which could sample either the active texture or the image directly from the display buffer. But apparently there were some issues. One of them had, it was used also for Vertex Paints, and it had inaccurate colors, so it wouldn't match what you sampled. Is what. So the one job that the sample color had was doing it wrong. It wasn't sampling the actual colors. And the other one also had some other issue, I think. And it should, this combined now should take care of working in all modes. The other one lacked the ability to also make changes to the user palettes. And now this combines the operators and their functionality, allowing Sculpt mode to now sample to the palette and Vertex Paint mode to retrieve accurate colors. Super nice. The existing Sculpt sample color operator has been removed. So if you have an add-on or a script that uses this, it's no longer going to work. It's been removed because now it's called Paint sample color. It's unified for all of them. This fixes 2 issues. Nice. This one seems old, right? 85 years ago, 2021. Crazy. Then another change related to painting has to do with undo. Texture Paint when in texture paint, certain actions do not push undo steps, like changing the active texture. Some of this is things that the user would expect, right? You change the active texture and you undo, and you expect to go back to the previous texture, especially if you picked one by mistake or you don't remember which one was your previous texture. That wasn't triggering an undo step before. Also, some actions that do push undo steps have no effect when undone. So they do push, so they use one precious undo step, you would undo and they wouldn't work. So this is more of a fix, but also adding some functionality, because things that you expect to be undoable, now they are. So nice. Next, we have a bunch of refactors as usual. Okay, this is not something that affects users really, other than a bit of performance improvement, potential performance improvements in cycles. So people usually ask Blender to have a C++ API or C or C++ API, and it turns out there was some kind of API, was only used by Cycles and was introduced 18 years ago, and that is no longer needed because Cycles has now, Blender now has the Hydra Storm plugin. The Cycles is a Hydra delegate, which means that can be the API used for other render engines or for integrating external render engines into it. So that's no longer needed. So this change actually removed a bunch of code. There's so much more here removed, and that could potentially improve performance, which is super nice. And the C++ API, I think it's 18 years ago. Yes, Brecht van Lommel, creator of Cycles, implemented this 18 years ago, and it's still here. You can still go and check the code. How was it back then? It's crazy. Even Blender wasn't C++. It was only Cycles back then. Crazy. All right, let's see what other refactors were done here. There's one I want to mention. There's so many refactors, but this one in particular has to do with work done in HipRT, which is good to mention because people sometimes ask, hey, everything is NVIDIA nowadays. What happens to AMD or other backends? In this case, HipRT has been refactored in order to remove non-ray tracing kernels. So I think up until this point, all of the kernels were even the ones that you were not using, they were part of this, they were included. And now this has been split, so only the ones that you need are included, which could lead in potential performance improvements and less memory and so on and so forth. So, and I think it also makes it, here is mentioned by Sergey, that it makes it closer to how CUDA and optics modules are structured, which is better for everyone because makes things more consistent. So super nice. What else? We reached the last part, actually, the section of UI, user interface. There is a number of changes here, and this I'm going to mention all of them because they're very visual and it's good to have. So image editor, I think I mentioned in the last episode that the image editor now supports it supports snapping. So let's show it here. So I'm going to render this beautiful cube, which takes a embarrassing amount of time to render. Oh, even crash blend. Well, okay, okay, crash. Wow, instant crash. Oh my god. Okay, let me open Blender Lite. I was even using the regular Blender. So let's see. Can I render in this one? Okay, beach bowling. I think the default settings are way too high. Okay, now I got the render here. In here, now when I zoom in and out, I can hold control and it will snap to whole numbers like 50, 60, like whole, what do you call it? Tens, every 10, 80, 100. So it's easy to now to snap to 100. Sorry. Before you will have to press the numpad 1, 2, and so on to scale it. Well, this I mentioned in the last episode, but now you can also press Shift and go in small increments. So you can actually see, I don't know if you get to see that because it might be too small. Let me make my UI larger. And then when you zoom in, you can hold Shift and it will have a precision zooming. So it shows 2 decimals in how far you need to go. Cool, nice. Small thing, but it's good to have. And actually, this I mentioned in the last BlenderToday live stream, which Harley saw and added it. So super nice. Thank you, Harley. Next, also Harley mentioned another thing that I mentioned in the last episode was that the quad view was had a bit too much data, too much information. So if you remember in Blender, oh, we can open Blender 5. That one is, well, this is not even, this is a release candidate. Okay, so if I go into quad view mode, which is Control-Alt-Q, yeah, exactly. So there's a bit too much going on here. So the only view that I can actually rotate and move, it's the top right, because the other ones are locked. But you still have a bunch of things here that are visible, like all this Christmas tree in each corner that you don't need, right? There are already other indicators. There is access drawn, so you don't need that. And then these I mentioned in the live stream, and Harley saw this and he implemented it. So I think also the stats were shown everywhere. Let's see, I think there was, yeah, the stats. You would enable stats once and you will see them 4 times. It's not like you can have different amount of vertices on one side and another. So there was a bit too much info, and that has been fixed. Now the information is only shown on the top left of the stats, only in the top left where you would usually see it. So super nice quality of life improvement by Harley. Thank you so much. Also, a little thing that I mentioned in the past live stream. So let's see what I can mention in this live stream so we can get it fixed. Small change, the offset of the backdrop composite, the compositor backdrop has 2 labels, X and Y, but it wasn't mentioned because it didn't have, you would have to guess which one was the label. So let's see if I go to compositor and I have a, well, I cannot render, right? Because it's gonna crash. I just tried it on, oh no, this is Blender 5. This works, this should work. The compositor has this setting where you can see the offset, you can move it, but it doesn't have an axis label. Now it does. One of those tiny things. I don't even think it has a PR. No, it's just straight to main. Another thing that I noticed the other day, this is Blender 5. So when you go, when you add a grease pencil object, when you have a grease pencil object in edit mode, you can move, pressing M, you can move some of these strokes, of these points to a new layer. This menu, you can actually search. I don't know if you knew that. Let's go again. You can actually press M, and then you can just press spacebar to search and search. You can add it to any layer that you have, and even when you have a group, something new in Blender 5, no, in Blender 4.3, when you search, you will have now, you can actually see the group. So you see, it's like, okay, no, wait, this is Blender 5. Okay, I'm mixing it up with a task, with a design task that I made. It's up for grabs. Anyone can contribute. It's now not there yet, but this doesn't show. Actually, I need to add this to that design task. So yeah, we have now support for groups in Grease Pencil, but this is nowhere to be seen when you move to layer, right? The groups are not shown here. And I made a design task in projects.blender.org. If you want to help out and contribute, you can go to issues Blender issues, and then so first go to Blender, then go to issues, and then look for the label good first issue, and here you'll find some of these tasks that developers think they're a good way to get involved in Blender development, to try out. And this is the one that I made about adding groups in visibility of groups in the move to layer operator. So this is how it usually looks. As I mentioned, there's no mention of groups, and this is having the groups as sub menus. So this will make it that when you search, you will have a bit more clear understanding of where something is. So a bit of a hierarchy, which is something I look forward to having. Anyway, so the change of this week, sorry for the sidetrack, it makes it so the search item is now in the list. So nothing changes in terms of functionality, as in like you could search before, but it wasn't clear. People wouldn't be aware of it, maybe. Actually, there was a one right-click select post proposal asking for searching in the move to layer, and it was there. It's just not visible because the only way to know was to look in here. Down here, you will see the space search in the status bar. So yeah, let's see. So Alberto says, why not make a pull request, Pablo, instead of an issue? Because pull request involves code, and I don't know how to code this. Or maybe I could look into it, but it will be a bit of a waste of time because I don't know exactly. I have other things to do, and related to Blender, like making this, right? I can write how it should work, and then someone else can get involved and try using it, right? We never know that maybe this task is grabbed by someone that is finishing college, university, or that has another job and wants to get into Blender development, and then makes this, and then makes another, and another, and another, and then at some point some might be working at Blender. Who knows? This has happened in the past. The good first issues are good to get more people involved. So yeah. I mean, I have some PRs myself, but they're very, very lame, I would say, or small, I would say. And that, so I have some PRs, and they're like just moving a button from here to there, like introducing these values here, small things that I think I can improve. Like the node panel, I would like to this small proposal to, instead of having it on a sub panel, and then that is, yeah, you need to open every time, and just have it in line here next to the label, because it makes sense. Like small things that I can make without wasting my time or developers' time, because this has to be reviewed by other developers, and yeah, you're using their time. Then what else? What's the other change? Also icon change. Very small change, but you may have noticed that in the past, in Blender 5, we have Blender 5 here, the arrow for marking something as selected or not, for some reason, do you see the design of the arrow? Was weird. Like, this is the full design, so when something can be selected, that is full in, but when it wasn't selected, it looked different, looking like an arrow pointing somewhere instead of this version outlined. And we use outlines everywhere, or we try to use outlines everywhere, but this wasn't an outline, so this has been fixed. That's it. Very small small change, but it helps consistency. So let's see, what are the questions for this week? Let's see. Blender coding stream by Pablo. Yeah, right. I mean, I can do it if you want, but my coding knowledge goes as far as opening Blender. Then, for example, today I was actually coding something, which was what was it? It was the panels for the theme in Blender 5 were structured here, right? We have regions, we have common, we have a bunch of panels for colors, collection colors, strip colors, bone colors, and then we have text style, which it's part of the UI if you think about it. And then this also takes too much space. It's 3 panels for something that you don't change that often, and they're all about the same thing, you could say. So what I did was moving them into sub panels. So a panel called color sets with bone colors, which should have the bone colors, bone icon instead of the colors icon, collection colors, strip colors. So this makes it all just nicely wrapped into one panel that you can collapse. Then I moved the text into user interface, so it's text style, so it's same place, but just part of the UI. And I was looking into organizing this a bit better. That's it. The small thing that I was doing. Let's see. So this I can close, and I was looking at actually the question. So let's see if anything new. One more question showed up while I was making some time. Let's see. First question by del Valle Macuare, Ernesto. Hello Pablo, feliz años y saludos desde Venezuela. Hi to Venezuela, I hope everyone's doing well. Crazy times, what a way to start the year. Do you have any news about Blender for Android? I would like to give it a try to any test build that could be around. Thank you for any info about this. Congrats for the great work, as always. Yes and no. So from Blender, as in from the Blender developers, there's not many news, but I know the person working on it, they had a thread here on DevTalk that had some Android, and they had actually some builds. And okay, last one was from 10 days ago, last message, but I think there was some action here going on, and there were some improvements in Blender. Itself as a Blender project is not working at the moment on Android, not even on iPad for that matter. Unfortunately, there are no resources for that. However, there is one of the projects for this year is to improve Blender for tablets in general. So even if you're using a Wacom or a Huion or an XP pen or Wacom, because Wacom is one of the development fund patrons, which means that they are investing in Blender. And even though the donations are not, it doesn't really mean development like directly. It's no strings attached, that's why it's hard to get developers to contribute. There is some interest in working in making this work, right? For Wacom. Wacom has some new tablets, the Wacom Ink, Moving Ink, which is Android based, and the idea is for Blender to work there. So I have faith that this will be one of the projects for this year, and in some way or another, either the iPad project leads the way or Wacom Android leads the way, but it will happen in some shape or form. Hopefully, like my dream would be that this year we see, oh my god, tablets work really well with Blender works with tablets well, and then the painting and sculpting becomes better, and now you can sculpt on the go, and you know, it all comes together. But that's a dream. It's not that far-fetched though. I mean, you have all the moving pieces already. Let's see what else. Next question. Nuno Alex says, Happy New Year, Pablo, and to all Blender team. About the Blender survey and what will the next Blender features to focus on. Seems like in the third place is better handling of complex scenes and also USD, which is good news. In my opinion, Blender really needs to have a better approach to deal with complex scenes. with many objects likes, and that is also node procedural, akin to Solaris, Katana, or Gaffer. After more than 5 years using Blender, I still lack better features to do look development, better control of variants of a shot or asset, different camera and resolution outputs, which currently is a bit cumbersome in Blender. Another approach to deal with scene properties, dynamic collections, with filtering, render passes, general overrides, or anything in general. Animation takes. I really hope this area gets more attention in 2026. Cheers. I don't have experience. I know many people mention Cinema 4D takes. I have actually never used Cinema 4D in my life. I haven't even opened it once. So I don't know exactly what they mean. People say, hey, add this feature, but they don't explain the feature. And I haven't had anyone explain it to me yet. But I think it's some kind of overrides in my head from what they explained, from what you mentioned. Variants of a shot, I imagine those as overrides. Like you have your scene or your view layer, and then you want to have just a copy just like that, but override a few things, right? You have like a variant, variant as a word variant, not a kind of an implementation in other software. But yeah, that would be great. I would love that too. One of those projects. Next question. Hi Pablo, sorry to miss your last stream. I landed an actual VFX show. Nice. Are you using Blender there or not? Congrats. On a team that uses Blender till render. That sounds nice. Yes, even the sound playing in the file for timing. Nice. I'm using lots of simulation nodes and already finding bugs and things that need work, like needing something to clear sim nodes caches, or that the default Alembic import starts with constraints and trims the timeline, which confuse users. I'm collecting industry user info. As for an actual question, how are the geo nodes and rig nodes going? As always, I'm here for any gossip I can get from the source. Well, geo nodes are going well. I think that the team keeps working on it. The goal is for physics to be a thing this year, hopefully. There is already a task on rigid body physics, and there is even a branch. But rigging nodes, we've seen the bone info node show up, right? That on the constraint, the new geometry attribute constraint, that opens the doors for many things. But rigging nodes per se, I think Sibren, who is in the chat, might have a better answer for that. I actually think he even had a prototype at some point with rigging nodes, as in Python prototype for quickly testing it. So that I'm not qualified to say. If there is a task number, maybe I can check, Sibren. If you have it there, I can see it, but not that I know. Rigging nodes are coming to Blender, probably not this year though. So yeah, that's you heard it from the source. Module owner of animation and rigging. But you never know actually with these things, right? Like maybe there is a Jack's Luke kind person sitting around that it's amazing at this thing and then can just add it. Or maybe there's these other bits and pieces that get added to geometry nodes that end up kind of being like rigging, even though not fully rigging. You never know. With open source, you never know, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Let's see if there is any more questions. 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, 4. Last question. Happy 2026, says Martin Lorenzon. Do you have any ideas if some developer is interested in mesh normals bug reports? This is a bug that we struggled with for 2 years ago and hasn't received a lot of attention during bug fixing periods. It breaks custom split normals on apply scale in cases of negative or non-uniform. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let me see. Has Hans seen this? Because Hans is the person who is currently away, but it should be back soon. As in away on holidays time, but should be back soon. The bug itself is related to work that he's been doing not too long ago with custom normals and, well, everything has to do. What is high severity? Oh, it was removed high severity from 2 years ago. And the last time there was some action in this was 2 years ago, 3 months ago in the quality project for this year. So it is actually in the list for the code quality project. Let's see, is it mentioned? Yeah, custom split normal. So the developers are aware of it, but maybe needs a direct poke on somewhere. Like maybe something you could do, maybe wait a week, maybe, I don't know exactly when, but maybe wait a bit and mention it in the chat of the module, saying, you know, you don't need to go, hey guys, when are you gonna fix it? You can be nice about it. You can say like, hi, I have this 2-year-old bug report. I wonder if there is anything new. Or maybe you can reply to this saying, hey, I tested it, because the last comment is from 2 years ago. Maybe you can say, hey, in 5.1 alpha, this issue is still happening. Do you need any more testing on my side? How can I help to test this? That kind of comments, they're really helpful, and then they bring awareness to this to other developers, because this is 2 years ago. Since 2 years ago, custom normals had changed a lot internally, but also there is a new developer working on bug fixes in the modeling module. So I would say, let's see if it's called Tariq. I don't know if it's mentioned here, maybe here. But there's new people involved. So please keep your bug reports up to date. It always helps. Nice. Actually, Sivran mentions, as a developer, I would appreciate such a comment indeed, especially after 2 years. You feel free to go and say, hey, I tested it with the latest. Like, first of all, go to builder.blender.org, download the latest alpha, and test it there. And you can say, I can confirm that after 2 years, still there. And I wonder if you need any help with testing, further testing. That's it. You don't need to do anything else. That already brings awareness. And let's update to see if there is anything else, any new. Yes, 54 seconds ago. Okay, let's be quick so I can wrap up. It's exactly 1 hour. So, hi Pablo, what's up? It's admittedly been a while since I remember to look for. Oh, but as I knew, there was a lot of documentation or resources to know what kind of attributes we can use in nodes, besides making and storing our own, of course. For example, I want to access the scenes, units, scale in geometry nodes or materials without having to use a driver. I tried copying the data path and pasting parts of it into an attribute node, though I'm not a programmer, so I probably don't know what I'm doing, but that didn't do the trick. Is there currently any way to find out which or what attributes from Blender we can type as attributes? And are there any plans to make more attributes possible in Blender? Also, if anyone else wants to reply and tell me what I'm doing wrong, this is welcome too. Yes, please, anyone, if you know about this, because I would say the documentation, but I wonder if that is up to date. Yeah, I wonder if there is a place where those attributes are, like, I would go to the manual, right? Like go blender.org/manual and see here, because there are some attributes that are just implied, right? Like, I don't know, there is like temperature attribute. That is an attribute that is nowhere to be seen. You need to type and then just knows. I wonder if yeah, good question. I don't know where. The spreadsheet editor shows the mesh attributes. Those are different for the scene. But yeah, but maybe they could be. It's not per object. Scene info prototype from 2 years ago by Cartesian Caramel. That would be nice. Actually, no, sorry, I don't know, but it would be amazing if you or someone else finds this, or if there is no one can find it, then it's a good moment to do so, to make this. Maybe make I go through the code, ask developers, hey, we should make this. So yeah, all right. That being said, thanks everyone for hanging out with me in the chat with the first episode of the year. The next one gonna be in 2 weeks, 2 weeks time, on the 20th of January, which is gonna be the last one before beta already. No. No, actually we have one more on the 3rd of February, right before beta. So we have 2 more of new features in Blender 5.1 alpha. The team is still working on the quality project, so it maybe won't be as active as in previous releases, or especially 5.0, but there will be features, I bet. Some of them bigger than others, actually. Some of them have to do with, I don't wanna spoil anything because I don't even know. Things can change. Hopefully we're not gonna be adding any new features during the beta like happened in 5.0. That shouldn't happen anymore. But then there is 5.2 LTS and then 5.3 in November. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's enjoy this quiet time of the year. That's just starting, just chilling, and meet again in 2 weeks time for another episode of BlenderToday Live. Watch your ear holes because P6 nodes? No. 5.1? No. 5.2? No. Okay. Bye. Thanks.